Okay, here, here I am. And there's Bill. All right, and
Well,
get rid of this. And how long have we been doing this, Bill? Like a couple of years now, right? Oh, I can't hear you.
sorry. Yeah, it's been at least 4 years, 3 years, something like that.
You would think by now I would have worked out all the kinks, and they're just constant.
Never.
Yeah. Well, hello and welcome to episode 32 of Fright Lounge. I am your host, Rigor. I am from the podcasts Then Is Now podcast, the Cult Movie Lounge, and the East Meets the West, in which we discuss spaghetti westerns and Shaw Brothers kung fu films. So, anyways, today on the Fright Lounge, what we do is we discuss horror in depth, horror media, for the seasoned horror fan as well as those who want to get into the horror genre. I'm like not doing too well tonight.
This is the first time we've actually done a show. We're lying about there being previous episodes.
Right. Don't look at our Facebook or our YouTube page. Oh man. Well, I hope everyone at home had a great Christmas and New Year's. And Bill, Mike Hill could not be with us. He's not feeling too well. And Dantes had a personal emergency at the last second. So it's just you and me, Bill. So
And
how
then
was
there were
your
two.
huh?
And then there were two.
And then there were two, yeah. So it's like a murder mystery,
Almost.
So how was it since I last saw you? How's things been going?
Um, it's really been a complete disaster.
Oh no.
I told myself, like, right before the holidays, stuff started to go wrong. Like appliances started breaking at once. The car died. So, this last month has been me juggling all that stuff and somehow making the means to fix these things happen. So yeah, it's been an interesting month. I told myself when all this stuff started happening, I'd like to go to sleep and wake up in February. And
Yeah.
that would have been a really good idea. Unfortunately, I didn't do that.
Oh, it's too bad. Yeah, I hear you. We've been like this because we had over Christmas week, we took the kids, her kids, my kids, their boyfriends and girlfriends. We all went to Disney, and that was great fun. Except like the last couple days, I got the flu. Then we get home, and Bill, you know what's coming.
I That's why I'm cringing.
Yeah, we and it was weird. I'll tell you from my point of view how it happened. So we walk in, put our luggage down, whatever, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, I just got to run down to my office for something. So I run downstairs to the office, and everything's fine. I get whatever I needed, and then I go back up, and next to like the door before you go down to my office is sorry, it's a door to the garage, and the cat's like rubbing on me, and I'm like on my leg, and I'm like that's kind of weird. Like she wanted to go to the door. I'm like, you never go in there, but I'm like, well, I'm here. I probably should check. Haven't been here in over a week. Open the door. The garage is full of water, like 2 inches of water. We still had tons of stuff stored in there.
My God.
Ceiling panels were on the ground. Man, it was a shit show. And so we called in, this guys at the last second. They came in and the pinch hit for the emergency. We figured out where the water was coming from, and I had to run downstairs and shut it off because it was like a day later, and the water was still pouring out of the ceiling, and I was like, what's going on here? And then we saw finally the plumbers found hidden behind like my stepdaughter's bed or something. um the pipe was burst and it was just pouring out.
Wow. That's
So
terrifying because that could be any of us.
I know. It's like, and I feel bad feeling bad about that because you look at the in North Carolina and California, and it's like, those people lost everything, and you know,
Yes.
I didn't lose nearly as much, so it
That's
was
been keeping me grounded through all of
yeah.
my stuff. And I kept telling my partner that over and over again. I'm like, you know what? This really sucks and I hate it. And, we have the right to bitch about it, but things can be a lot worse. And we keep seeing it
Yeah, yeah.
everywhere.
So get this. So then last weekend, my wife and I, the 17th, we have the same exact birthday, and it's our wedding anniversary. We celebrated our fifth, and we decided to go back to Orlando, but this time we weren't going to do Disney. We weren't really sure what we were going to do. We are thinking of Universal, so we ended up going to this place called Discovery Cove, and we swam with the dolphins, which was awesome. And
Cool.
and then we did some stuff on Saturday, and then on Sunday we went indoor skydiving because I'm like, we're 55, we need to go skydiving this year. And she's like, I don't know, maybe. And then I had actually never heard of indoor skydiving before. And I was
Yeah,
like, oh, I'm
seems like you
like,
shouldn't
well,
do that.
yeah. And it's basically you're like just on top of this giant fan. So if you fall, you just go cut the
Oh,
ribbons, you know.
now that I might do.
That was cool though. I was pleasantly surprised at how good that was. And my rationale was let's do this because that's what it's going to feel like. It's not going to feel like you're falling when you jump out of a plane because you're too high. You don't have a frame of reference. It's not like falling from, 2 or 3 stories.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I want to eventually get to doing that. But that's it. So Dantes, like I said, could not be here. But he and I were talking because he had seen the new Nosferatu in the cinema. Did you see that, Bill?
Yeah, I did. I just
Oh,
watched it
good.
last night.
Oh, awesome. Because I have not seen it. And we got talking about Nosferatu, and I mentioned the original and blah blah blah. And so he went back and watched the original, and he was like, "Wow, this is great. I had no idea. I never knew it was a thing." And so we got talking, and then basically that's where we came up with the idea of doing silent horror films. Bill, I mean, I'm going to ask you about what you thought of the new one, but I'm going to wait. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to see it, but I'm dying to know your opinion. But I'll
Yeah.
wait till we start talking about the film.
I won't
Um,
spoil any surprises for you. I mean, not that you don't know the story already. It is very faithful to the original film, so but it expands a little bit, and I won't give those away.
okay, okay, awesome. And I know there's a lot of people out there that like. I mean, if you're watching the show, chances are you're not one of those people, but you may know somebody who they don't like black and white. They don't understand black and white, and let alone silent films
Don't
with the
talk to
narrative.
them ever again.
Yeah. You got to teach them to keep an open mind because there's a lot to love here. You can't forget that these movies were made at the dawn of filmmaking.
Yeah.
And if you could tell a story with visually more than with dialogue, I think that's great. I think, this is going to be a weird reference, but I remember G.I. Joe issue 50, the Marvel comic, was all silent. There was no dialogue through the whole thing. And it was the character Snake Eyes running around killing people or something. And I just remember loving that one because I didn't need to read dialogue to understand the story completely.
Well,
Um, oh,
the,
go
the
ahead.
films are it's a literal medium, and that's really what is makes the silent era so special because there, like you said, there was no sound, there was no on-screen dialogue spoken, at least between two actors, and um, it's harder to hide the shortcomings of your whatever movie you're making, had to rely a lot on the story. Not that there were not spectacular special effects that were achieved even at such an early stage in cinema, but it's a very special era to me. That's why I'm glad that you wanted to do this show because it's just it's something we can never ever get back. You could make a movie silent now, I guess, and like if you wanted to be quirky, you can make your movie black and white, but this was not, you can never get back the mindset of the audiences that saw that era in time and how these movies probably were just mind-boggling to them. I hope.
I agree. I agree. I was thinking that while I was watching them. And one thing I did discover this morning. Now I had put out on the what do you call it, the Facebook page, and I think yeah, it was like Facebook page and Twitter or something. Um, links to watch these movies on archive.org. And of course, this morning I discovered that there are actually remastered versions of these on YouTube. So if you haven't had a
Yeah.
chance to watch them or you want to watch them again, check them out on YouTube.
I like the beat up versions. I mean, I like to see something all fixed up, of course. In some movies, I can think of a few where you really couldn't see what was happening on screen until like it was remastered. Did you ever see Humongous from
Which one is that?
1982?
I know the name, and I
It
know the year.
it was like a an overgrown mutant man on an island that was murdering these dorks on a yacht. It's
Oh
a
yes, I think I
they
saw
end
that.
up on the island and like the poster was like human bones hanging as a mobile over a, a crib.
That's right.
Um so anyway, that was a movie that was super dark, and until they released a nice fixed up version, there were literal portions of the movie where all you could see were points of light and you really didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't quite like the I loved the version, the high def version of the Golem. I thought that was really good. Um, but anyways, so let's explain. Well, we kind of already did. These are movies from released to cinemas, but didn't have any voice. There were cards that would come up, and the cards would tell you the dialogue, or it would be like a narration piece, every so often, and that was fine. I was doing my notes while I was watching them, which I don't normally do. Like I'll take notes of a particular film, but then I have other notes like the actors and the writers and directors and all that. So I do those later. And I was kind of under a time crunch because I had to get these films watched this morning, even though I only had a month to do it. And so I'm watching the movies. I got up early and I'm watching the movies, and I'm working on the notes at the same time, and I'm realizing I can't work on the notes because I have to pay attention to what's going on more so than a regular movie. If there was dialogue, I could
Yeah,
still hear it and then look up.
there's no looking away from a silent film. You're
Right.
not experiencing any aspect of it. So yeah, it's demanding,
Yes.
Igor. It makes demands of the audience. It has expectations, and they better be met. Damn it.
Right. Right. Now we picked four. We're doing tonight. We're covering Nosferatu from 1922, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from 1920, The Golem from 1920, and The Phantom of the Opera from 1925. There were several others that we could have added to this list, and we may have to do a part two or part three. There was The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Metropolis, Beauty and the Beast, just a lot more. Haxon, that weird
Oh my God.
documentary.
Witchcraft Through the Ages. I love
Yeah,
that movie.
I do too.
That's weird.
What?
Paxson is really weird. I mean, there are things in that movie that everybody thinks of the early era of cinema as being, oh, you couldn't do anything on screen, and everybody was so uptight. That's completely wrong. People were doing shit on screen in 1915 that you couldn't get away with later because of the Hays Code.
Right.
Paxson is a good example of that.
I think it was one of the movies we watched tonight, and I don't think I wrote it down, so I'll just mention it now. But it might have been Phantom of the Opera. There's this chick and this dude, and he keeps putting his hand on her boobs, and then she kind of like grabs him and like pulls it away very carefully, and then he puts his hand back there.
Yeah.
But all right, so let's start with Nosferatu from 1922, aka Nosferatu: A Symphony of Horror. And here's a brief synopsis. Vampire Count Orlok expresses interest in the new residence and real estate agent Hutter's wife. It's kind of oversimplified, but
Yeah.
I guess it's essentially the tale. It's basically the story of Dracula. So when did you first see this, Bill?
Mm.
And what was your first impression?
Nosferatu was one of the first movies that I ever got for when I bought a VCR.
Really?
Back in, I just remembered this right now, as a matter of fact. It was sought after because everybody saw the stills in the still images of Max Schreck as Count Orlok, and I was a huge Dracula fan. Like I was really into vampire movies, Dracula stories in particular, and I knew what this was because I read about it in books, but you could not see it anywhere. In fact, there was a time when I first started reading about Nosferatu that it was spoken about as if it were a lost film, because as you mentioned, this is the story of Dracula. and they did not have the rights to do this. This was a German-made film, F.W. Murnau, and he did not have the rights from Bram Stoker was dead, but his widow was still alive,
Right.
and she sued the shit out of them for doing this because they didn't involve her at all. So, but it's it is very similar to the Dracula story. They do take a few liberties and some detours, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But you know, this was highly sought after and you couldn't find it anywhere. So by me, I mean, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't see it. So when I got a VCR in the mid 80s, there was like I'm sure you remember it. There was a series of films in a clamshell case, and it's like a beige, and they all look the same. There was like this beige case with the film's title on the front. It
Yes.
was like the
Yes.
Archives collection or something. And I got that version of Nosferatu. I sat down and I watched it, and I was just blown away by it.
That's
Definitely
awesome.
a favorite film.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had similar experience. I read about it in all the horror books that I have, even like some of these here. And I'm trying to remember. I think maybe saw some clips on PBS, but like you said, it wasn't until the dawn of the VHS tape that I actually got a chance to watch it. Um, but PBS did show a lot of these silent movies, and there was one in Boston. There's still one in Boston, but I may have seen the whole thing there. I forget. I've seen it many times over the years. So
Did you ever see it? Are you saying you did see it theatrically?
no, not theatrically. I'm talking about on PBS on TV.
Because I've seen it theatrically now.
Really?
Yeah, and you know how sometimes you can have an experience like that where you're all you know of a movie is confined to this box, and then you go see it in a theater, and it totally changes your perception of the film. And Nosferatu was definitely one of those. It was one of those screenings where there was a guy like shredding these like this metal soundtrack to Nosferatu. Great guitarist. It wasn't really what I would have preferred to hear
Yeah.
scoring Nosferatu. I would have liked just some creepy pipe organ music personally,
Yeah.
but it was a great experience, and you could not deny the power of this film. Seeing it on a screen projected with an audience, that's an experience I'm glad I had it. You can still see it. I mean, they still screen it, so and it
Yeah.
looks better
Revival.
than ever now.
Yeah. It's when I used to live near Boston, I'd be able to go see all those kinds of things. But I'm in Maine now, so it's not as easy to get to those. But yeah, I'll keep my eyes peeled. Maybe we'll have to lobby George and Jean to add it to one of their.
I don't think there's a good chance of that. I doubt.
Yeah, no. um,
Maybe.
so it was directed by F.W. Murnau, who his name has gone down in history for this movie. And of course, they lifted most of the story from Bram Stoker, and but he's credited on IMDb, so I'm sure his
Well,
representatives are happy about that.
yeah, a deal was apparently worked out, or maybe
Oh,
it's
good,
just so old they can't do anything about it legally. I don't know.
interesting. Yeah, because I mean, Mickey Mouse just went into public domain, and that was written in the 1920s. And Dracula
Uh,
was what, 1898?
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, so that should be in the public domain, unless somehow, like I know, if you ever see, like how Disney did Cinderella, it was a huge hit way back when, 1940s, 50s, and then in the 80s or 90s they did Cinderella Part Two, and you're like, what the hell? Why are they doing that? Well, that's to keep the copyright alive. But like,
Oh, I
you
didn't
know,
know that part.
yeah, but like Steamboat Willie went into the public domain because Disney never did anything with him beyond that one short cartoon.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, so I thought that was interesting. But this was also written by Henrik Galeen, who also wrote The Golem, which we'll talk about later on. And we've got Max Schreck as Count Orlok, Transylvanian noble and vampire. Now it's weird here though from Wikipedia, which again, grain of salt. It says in the public domain version, he is referred to as Count Dracula. I don't. I guess I don't know. I thought I watched the public domain version, but they called him Orlok.
No, the version I had changed all the names back to Renfield, Dracula, Harker.
Really? I
Yeah.
watched the one on archive.org. And yeah, that's interesting. I did not know that. So that's good to know. But Max Schreck was portrayed in the movie, was it Requiem for a Vampire with Willem
No,
Dafoe?
Shadow of the Vampire.
Shadow of the Vampire with Willem Dafoe. And that was an awesome movie. It was basically but the making of Nosferatu. And they couldn't tell if Willem Dafoe's character, if Max Schreck was a method actor, or was he really just a vampire, or was he
Yeah,
whacked?
it's highly suggested that he is a real vampire
Mm,
by the end of the movie, and that F.W. Murnau knew this, and like it was like kind of like a snuff film that he was
right,
making where a woman is actually victimized by a vampire.
right.
Heavy stuff.
It really is. There was also a remake in '79 with that was with Klaus Kinski, right?
Yeah, another gorgeous, brilliant version of this movie.
I
And
did see that
Werner
in the movie when
Herzog's.
it came out.
Yeah, you saw it in a theater.
Yeah, my parents took me.
Oh my God, you are so lucky.
I told
Well,
you, man, 1972, it all started.
you saw the English language version, so maybe you weren't so lucky. There were two versions of it filmed side by side
Oh, I
when they
didn't know.
made it. They filmed all of the scenes in two languages, and one version was cut into German. That's the preferred version by most fans. The English language version, it's like, it's still Coke, but you opened it yesterday and it's all flat. So it's not as fizzy,
Ah, great
you
analogy.
know?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to check out the German version. I've never seen that one. I've just seen the American one. So let me show some images here. And thank God for my notes for reminding me. Otherwise, I would not have.
Sorry. I'm like so not backing you up here on this. I
Like I
feel
said, how
bad.
long have we been doing this?
I feel bad about that.
And I'm looking for the share screen thing. I know I opened it already. So, here we go. So, and I'll share this. Boom. Share. Sharing is caring. Come on. Not responding.
I love your horror movie books displayed behind you.
Oh, thank you.
I
I just
love
thought
that.
of it because otherwise you'll see like a tissue box and pencils and crap.
Well, not that we're not interested in that. I'm a huge fan of tissue boxes.
Oh,
I
there you go.
prefer the ones with tropical bird patterns on the side. You can get those now at the store.
That's funny. Oh, Zoom meeting is not responding. It wants me to close the program. I can't close the Zoom meeting.
Oh
Uh,
no.
wait for the program to respond. Oh no. All right. Why can't this thing? All I did was hit share. Maybe you know what? I'm going to close this website there and this website there and see if that does anything.
I should check and see if we're even broadcasting.
Yeah,
Or
we are. I can see it.
we're on Facebook. Did you check YouTube?
Yeah, I have that open too. Let me see if there's been any comments on it. Oh, wait, here we go. Yeah. Tomcat asks, what's your guys' opinion on the origin of the fable of Nosferatu and the underlying tones that the original film adaptation decided to take? Um, I'm not sure. I of the fable of Nosferatu because he's not really a literary character. He's Dracula, right?
Yeah, they were just doing a you know a hack job on it. They were like, "Well, we're going to film this," and it had not been filmed before that. We should mention that too. This was the first screen version of Dracula.
Right,
It just wasn't. It got there first years before the Universal version.
right. All right. You know what? Let's see. This is about to crash on me. So I'm thinking, let's hold this thought when we come we'll take a break. Our folks who are watching, our video is going to end briefly, and I'm going to get it back up and running as soon as I possibly can. All right.
Okay,
All
I'll be
right.
back.
Okay. Uh, there you are. Okay, let me go back to. I think it says we're on custom live streaming service, so I don't know. Oh, why did the recording stop? I wanted to record. Content of this meeting is being sent to custom live streaming service. Yes. Record. Here we go.
We're
Recorded.
kind of back.
Oh, there we go. I hear you. I wasn't hearing you.
There we go. I think we're back up now.
All right, let me check. So, uh,
Thanks for bearing with us during our time of technical difficulties.
yeah, it looks like we are up. I'm just gonna refresh Facebook. There we go.
And when you're ready, I think I understand Tomcat's question a little better.
Sure, go for it.
I think he was just referring to the legend of the
Okay.
vampire itself. And yeah, um I thought this was more interesting because I got a little bit more ethnicity out of the people in Nosferatu, because everybody in the Universal Dracula is like super. They're like super uppity and like white. Like this is Dracula coming to the civilized world, and the people in the original Dracula, we do see the Romani people who live in the area of Dracula's castle, and the innkeepers. By the way, the new version of Nosferatu has an amazing scene in the inn. You've never seen an inn scene like this, and
Oh,
it
really?
actually feels way more authentic than the other staged versions. But
That's cool.
this Nosferatu really does seem like it's trying to just tap into that, even though it's using Stoker's story. It's tapping into like that folklore aspect of vampirism, as opposed to, like I said, Dracula makes it all like it's a lot more clean around the edges than Nosferatu, which is really very dreamlike and ethereal. Uh,
Yes.
Silent or not, the images that you're seeing on the screen, they're very disorienting, I should say. The reveal of Count Orlok's castle in particular always is very stunning to me, how they show it, and it's just like this ruin jutting out of a cliff, and you're like, wow, you would you really go in there? Like, I would never set foot in there because it looks like it could just break off and fall into the fucking ocean, and you're like, would you
Right.
step
Exactly.
inside that place? So that makes it a little bit I would want to go in there and look around. Anybody would, but it just seems so
Right.
precarious. And
Yeah.
even
It's the stuff of nightmares.
yeah, truly. So yeah, I think that was definitely, they were showing more of the shadows than Universal did. Universal was all about the sets, which were amazing. The crypt,
Right.
Dracula's castle, even like the beautiful parlors that some of Dracula takes place in. There's that beautiful terrace that the Sewards have in their house. I'm like, wow,
Right. Right.
that place is nice. Dracula was living with giant beetles climbing out of old coffins.
Right.
He didn't even live
All
so
right. I am Right. I'm going to attempt to share again. And if it crashes it, then I'll just have to send you the folder. Oh, where'd the picture go? The picture is gone. Hold on. It's, I mean, you know what? No, hold on.
I'm
It's
I'm
going.
still seeing everything as good. So
All right. That's good. So let me, oh, yes, like weird things have been happening to me. Like weird, I don't know. I can't even, my life is just really bizarre. All right, let's see. Newspaper ads. Nosferatu. He's Nosferatu. Is that Mel Brooks said that?
I think so.
Dracula Dead and Loving It. I forget what it was in response to though. So great
I'm
joke, wasn't it, folks?
I'm not seeing anything if you're
No, I'm
sharing.
not. I'm still calling it up.
Okay.
And then all right.
I
Here we
find
go.
it very hard to find newspaper ads for Nosferatu.
There
You know,
was only a couple.
yeah. I've never found and I look every city that I profile on the Facebook page. Like I really should just do a deep dive on Nosferatu one night and see if I can find anything. I know they're out there. I've
There was a lot, but a lot of them were all the same one. So I did manage to get a couple, and I just didn't want to get them all because they're all the same. All right, so
yeah.
here we go. First, I took some screenshots just to show people he Nosferatu does this thing, which was mirrored in Fright Night, 1986's Fright Night, where he goes from a lying position to a standing position without using any elbows or knees or
It's like a
muscles.
hinge.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, and my screen just went black, and I don't know.
It says your
Uh,
screen sharing. Oh, now we're back to just
screen
me.
sharing has stopped. Wow, the ghosts are out there tonight. Let's do this again. I'm telling you, man. So, all right, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna say it. I the other day I woke up and my alarm went off, and I went to reach for it, and there was a dude all dressed in brown like a UPS jumpsuit. He was next to my bed, leaning, touching the headboard, and I went, "What the fuck?" And I jumped back, and then I looked, and there was nothing there, and it was just like, I'm sure it was an optical illusion, or I was still asleep or something, but it was frightening.
Roger. I mean Rigor.
All
You're
right,
starting to
so
frighten.
is anybody I I could go on. In fact, I'm going to sit down and record. Why is this not sharing? Hold on. And are you seeing the? No, you're not. But I'm going to write down some of the experiences I've been having lately. They're not crazy and mind boggling or anything, but they're like, what?
Oh, there we
All right.
go.
So
You're
here we
screen
go. You
sharing, and there's
seeing
some
this now.
images.
Great. So there is Nosferatu doing the Nosferatu boogie, going from a lying position to a standing position. His feet are somehow on hinges. Maybe they're boots. They're like special boots he wears.
I'm hoping the first thing he does when he gets to civilized world is get a manicure.
you know, I have to a lot of the times, not all the time, but a lot of the times I kept thinking of Peter from What We Do in the Shadows,
Hmm.
the 5,000-year-old roommate that lived in the basement. You've
Yeah,
seen
he
that,
never
right?
said anything, did he?
No.
He just
He
kind
was
of
just
like
like,
looked at them, and I think it was hilarious that he was like Mr. Barlow from Salem's Lot, where they just like sort of
right.
like glowered and hissed.
And Taika Waititi's character's telling him, we're having a roommate meeting upstairs if you're interested. He's like, this is another iconic shot. That's what I wanted to show folks is these iconic shots. I'll bet you a lot of people watching this, if you've never seen it, you've seen one of these images that I'm going to show you. These are just they're everywhere. There's just certain things that are in the pop culture that people don't even know where they came from.
I think this
There's
movie is
that.
really
There's him,
scary.
which I thought so too. I thought it was even scarier because the shot before this was a faraway shot. And I was thinking, oh, they're not going to get so close. I'm like, oh man, the imagination just runs.
Hmm.
And but then they did cut to this close up shot. Here's another. It's actually, these are two. It's Nosferatu and his twin brother approaching each other. No, it's two separate shots. This one on the left here, I think that's the more iconic one. But I liked this one, how it made his fingers even longer.
Yeah, they loved it. That's
And
the one thing
then,
that
oh yeah,
stuck
that's
with me
another
when I was a kid was how long his fingernails were. I dressed up like Count Orlok for Halloween at school one year, and I had like fake claws that I
really.
attached to my fingers. Yes.
That's awesome. You just put bugles on your fingers.
I
And then
don't know
this is
what I did.
Nosferatu dying. He turns around and he's like, "Oh shit, the window's open. Oh shit, the sun's coming up. Oh fuck!"
Yeah, and
And he's done.
this was the very first time that a vampire was destroyed by sunlight.
Oh yeah,
That
on
is
screen.
that is no, that's not part of vampire lore. Sunlight does not kill vampires in vampire lore.
Oh
In fact, they can come out during the day. They just can't do anything. Like they're powerless during the day, or their powers are very weak, depending on what the story needs.
yeah.
It was kind of like they could get away with walking around in the sunlight, whereas this movie says no, if sunlight hits them, they're dead. This is the first time we ever saw it. This was
And
invented
I think,
the production.
oh okay, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Sort of like a lot of the werewolf stuff comes from the Wolf Man.
Yeah.
Um, that reminds me of I forgot what I was gonna say now. All right. And then this was from the Daily News, 1929. Max Schreck as no. Oh, and here's the one ad that I found everywhere. And why does it say my internet connection's unstable? Oh, yeah, yeah. But yeah, first time showing in America. This was from 1929. So it took 9 years for it to get here.
Wow.
I can't really read it because my camera is like right in the way. Do you want to read it?
Oh, first showing in America, now playing Nosferatu the Vampire, inspired by Dracula. A powerful. Oh, it's so small. It's hard for me to. Normally, I don't complain.
Psychopathic. Oh, it's small. Wow, it's big on my screen.
Okay, here we go. A powerful psychopathic drama, a symphony in sadism, a thrilling mystery masterpiece. Wow.
Sure, where the Daily Worker is. I think it's New York, and I think that's the last picture we have for Nosferatu. But yeah, it was hard. I did a search on. I didn't want to go beyond 1930 because I didn't want any. What do you call it? I didn't want any There was one in between this and the Klaus Kinski one, right?
No, the
It's little known.
1979 was the first remake of Nosferatu.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, that's what I did. I think when he's first walking through the doorway, he's terrifying,
Oh, in the remake?
especially when you. No, in the new one. I haven't. I don't remember the remake. Am I like skipping or something?
A little bit, yeah. It seems like we're on a delay. Like you don't hear when I say something for like 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
Hold on. Let me see if I can look at my folks. I apologize. This is just like one thing after another here.
This is normal for live streaming usually. I mean, this happens to us on our show all the time.
Yeah. All right. Oh, all right. Oh, you know why? It's all right. I can just do this later. It was whatchamacallit, Zoom was converting our last bit that we did, and that was just taking forever. I think
Oh,
now things are going smoother.
yeah, there's a
Yeah.
noted improvement.
Okay, good. I can convert it later on. Um so yeah, the that him going from lying down to going upright, that I always think of Nosferatu when I watch Fright Night.
Yeah, it's so startling. Like it's really unexpected. It's a good shock moment.
Right, right. Anything else you want to mention?
Well, I think it's notable too that out of all of the four movies that we're going to talk about tonight, Nosferatu is the only one that I really do think is frightening. And for the reasons I already said, like, the shock scenes, they give you sort of like a jump scare even, which, who knew that could happen in a silent film.
Right.
But I really do this is the one that means the most to me. I think the Golem is a little bit more beautiful than Nosferatu even, but in general, this one's my favorite out of the four.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I thought it was very good. That like you said, there was some genuinely scary moments. And I think it when it came out, I can't imagine it not giving the audience nightmares. I think
Yeah.
I would love to have been a fly on the wall, people's lives after seeing this.
Shrek's makeup is just so aggressive and terrifying. I think it's not just a painted face. There's actual prosthetics that he's doing with his ears and the nose and everything. There's some really great stuff happening there. That's one thing I will say about cleaning up movies. Max Shrek's makeup starts to become more and more apparent the more high definition the image gets. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
maybe
didn't watch a high
that's
definition.
not a great thing, but you know, it's history now. It's an absolute classic, turning point in cinema. Have I hyped it enough?
No, and I totally 100% agree with you. All right, next up is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from 1920. Here's the synopsis. Dr. Henry Jekyll experiments with scientific means of revealing man's hidden dark side and creates a formula that releases a murderer from within himself. He's always after me, formula. All right, Bill. Well, first time you saw this, your first impression.
I don't even remember the first time I saw it. I don't think I actually saw the silent film until maybe like 5 years ago. I don't think I ever watched it. I've seen several of the other versions. Um, this one was, I think all of tonight's films have excellent production values, and this one's no exception. It's just a beautifully photographed film, and the monster makeup in it is actually really creepy.
Yeah.
Um, you know, people talk a lot about Chaney's Phantom, deservedly so, but let's not forget Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is, the really creepy transformation.
Yeah. Yeah. This is it's just a classic story, obviously, Robert Louis Stevenson, and that always makes me think of there's an episode of The Incredible Hulk where someone's asking him, he's looking into his issue, and they're like, well, what is your issue? And Banner goes, well, have you ever read Robert Louis Stevenson? And the person goes, Treasure Island, and he's like, no, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Yeah. I just thought that was a great line. But yeah, I mean, the story is just so iconic, and it's just so true. I mean, people do have sort of battle sometimes between right and wrong, good and evil, all that kind of stuff. But this is another movie too that I think I saw it on PBS. It may have actually been on TV, but the more I think about it, the more I have a feeling in the late 80s or early 90s was when PBS just played a whole shit ton of these. Because I don't it was never on like a creature features or anything. They would never put this on.
No
Yeah,
silent movies on those.
no. So I'm thinking that's where I first saw it. And of course my computer here is Silenced. And of course, based, as I said, on the Robert Louis Stevenson novel. We have a great cast here. We've got John Barrymore, Dr. Henry Jekyll slash Mr. Hyde slash the giant spider in his dream.
Yeah, don't forget that.
Oh my god. And his son, of course, is John Drew Barrymore, and his granddaughter is Drew Barrymore. So it's too bad. I was hoping that Mike Hill and Dante's would be here so I could hear them go, she is?
There was a Barrymore before Drew.
Right. um Apparently in the first transformation, he didn't use a lot of makeup. He just sort of contorted his face, sort of like Lon Chaney. I wonder if he like knew Lon Chaney and was talking to him one time, and Chaney's giving him pointers, just do this, that, and the other.
Yeah. Could have shoved some cotton up inside his mouth and what all that crazy shit Chaney did.
Oh my god. I didn't even like write any notes about that in Phantom of the Opera, but a lot of it I know off the top of my head. I guess the character of Millicent was not in the novel. She first appeared in the stage play about this. And this version, according to one source, says uses the play's concept of Jekyll being engaged to Caru's daughter and Hyde being a dalliance with an attractive yet chaste dance hall girl whom he destroys to inject a coarse sexual undercurrent into Hyde's personality that Stevenson did not include in his novel. There was definitely a lot of that in here. It was like I was going, oh my god, how far are they going with this? Is he gonna assault her? I hope not.
It was pushing it. And this was Dracula, the Universal Dracula was also based on the stage play of Dracula, not necessarily the source novel. So
right,
I guess that was probably more typical.
Yeah, that's true. It's okay. Oh yeah, then the guy at the beginning goes, wouldn't it be great if we could separate the two halves of man and put them into separate bodies? Why?
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, like when you want to preserve the bad part, can't we just get rid of it?
Yeah, but have you never seen the Star Trek episode Mirror Mirror? They can't live without each other.
I wasn't thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen I just remembered this. There was a show on BBC probably about 10 years ago called Jekyll, and it was a modern day Jekyll and Hyde. It was only like 7 or 10 episodes, and what they would do is they figured out to use an audio recorder to leave notes. So because Jekyll would wake up and he'd be like, fuck, where's my car? I can't find my car. And it's clear across London, So they would leave messages to each other on their little recorder as to where things were, what they had done or whatever. But it was a serious Jekyll and Hyde, because when he turned, he physically became imposing. It was really well done. Have you seen that one?
No.
I highly recommend it, called Jekyll.
I didn't even know that existed. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah. I'm thinking I might get BritBox because there's a lot of stuff on there I want to see or revisit. Like I can't find Are You Being Served anywhere except there, and I really want to watch that again.
I'm kind of glad that from what you say, Jekyll did not continue as a series. And it's one thing that annoys me about TV now is that the stories are like so protracted and stretched out over so many episodes. That's why I gave up on The Walking Dead, because first of all, it got boring, and then second, it got really super sadistic, and I really was not feeling it. I was like, I don't want to be like starting to like this character, and all of a sudden they're in the middle of saying something and an arrow pops out of their head. Oh, someone shot her from behind. Oh, what a horrible world these people are living in, right? Like, fuck you people. I just held on it. I was like, you know what? This show's stupid. So
when it first came on, I would watch it with my stepsons, and they were much younger at the time. And it came to that episode where Negan had everyone on their knees and he basically bashed in Glenn's head.
That's the one.
And after that, the kids were like, you know what? I'm not watching this anymore.
I backed out of it after that. I was like, this is really sadistic. And like
Oh
we're
my God.
supposed to, and of course they don't deal with this character for another year. Like at least
Right.
you're going to be living with this character if you keep watching this show. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not into this anymore. And zombie movies anyway, like they're a lot more fun when they show you when it happens. Like you have to, it's like a where were you when the lights went out thing.
Yes.
Zombie movies, like movies that are set in a zombie reality, they
Yeah.
tend to not be as appealing to me. I like the initial onset.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, One thing that was interesting too is that the more he turned into Hyde, the more Hyde started to change. His head became like dome shaped and he was losing his hair.
It got creepier and creepier. Plus, the clothing was so over the top villain. It was amazing. The Mr. Hyde
Yes,
costume. I really dig the makeup in this movie.
they did a great job. It reminded me of um sorry, my brain is going. It reminded me of what did you just say?
About the makeup and the wardrobe, like how
Yes, the
it was.
Frederick March. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the Frederick March version from what I think 1931, where they used a lens, like his makeup was different colors, but because it
Yes,
was black and white, they changed the lens on the camera and it would transform him right there in on the camera.
that was brilliant.
Yeah. So
What's
hold
that
on.
movie, The Octopus, where it happens to a woman who looks she's 1 minute she's beautiful, and then on screen she transforms into a witch right before your eyes. If you haven't seen it, you should go look it up. It's an
I'll have to check
amazing
that out.
transformation. And I think it was from 29. I'm probably wrong
Oh
about the.
wow. Oh, definitely have to check that out. All right, I'm going to share some images here, and hopefully we have the bandwidth. Um, are you seeing that?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
The Mission Theater.
Yes.
Last time tonight.
I'm trying to scroll down the hold on, the YouTube page and see. Oh, here we go. Tomcat, just getting back to Nosferatu, he said that I always understood Nosferatu as the unknown, something scary. So yeah, okay. I still don't know what to say about it. I think that he was scary and he was unknown. And I think when it
Yeah.
came out in 1920, that was terrifying. It had to be.
Well, there's always like an underlying theme underneath of a horror movie, and the one, Dracula is it's like xenophobia. There's like there are these foreigners that will come into your life and they'll suck your blood. So, they're very strange. The way Dracula conducts himself and speaks in the Lugosi version, his speech is very foreign to these people. And it's like, oh, this is an outsider that we let in, and now they're gonna drain us of our blood.
Right, right. So this one's from the Morning Press, and it's you've got good Henry Jekyll here and bad Dr. Hyde there.
Yeah.
And this is essentially at the dawn of also movie ads, newspaper movie ads. So you're going to see some good ones here. There's a lot of these for this movie. There was a ton. Dr.
Ooh, I
Jekyll.
like that one.
Is that cool? Where it's almost like, is he coming out of the phone? Yeah, it looks like.
Telephone. Mr. Hyde.
Oh my God. And there's a war tax. That's pretty interesting. War tax included. All right. And then excuse me. These ones were all from the same page, but I just cut them off and put them together. I meant to fix that one up, but I apologize, folks. I can only do so much. But yeah, we've got some interesting ones here. They're all almost all three different. Well, the first two and then the bottom two are just text. What's this one? Oh, the very bottom one has got Harold Lloyd in Eastern Westerner. You know, I was going to mention earlier, I love Buster Keaton. In fact, on Then Is Now, I interviewed a guy who gives a presentation about Buster Keaton. And so we did that as a show. And it's just phenomenal. Like there's one shot of him, he's just standing there, and then he reaches out, and a car is like speeding by for real. And he just grabs it and gets yanked away with it. And it's like, how did
Yeah,
he not have his arm ripped out of his body?
it's crazy. Like the thing. I mean, I hope there was a secret to it. I hope there was something that kept his arm somewhat
I
reasonably
don't
straight.
know.
Well, they could have filmed it at a much slower pace and then just, sped it up.
Maybe, yeah, that's true. But it would have to be fast enough to make him go horizontal. Well, he could
Sure,
have had
yeah.
wires on his feet. Yeah. All right. We're getting off track here. We get another one from the Calgary Herald, the Regent, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Isn't it great? And then we've got this one here, the eminent actor, Mr. John Barrymore. And as he is, and as the depraved Mr. Hyde of Robert Louis Stevenson's wonderful novel, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is playing in its picturized version to tremendous audiences at the Strand.
Look, Mr. Hyde got warts. Did he?
Yeah,
Is that his hand sticking up there?
that's
Yeah,
his hand. Yeah, I think
covered
it's
in
just the
warts.
way the shadow is playing because his hand does change. I have a shot of that actually, I think, towards the end. And then this one was cool. I think we saw this guy. This looks like something out of the horror comics of the time, you know?
Yeah. And yet he's a fiend, and yet look, he's dressed reasonably well. There's a tie, there's a nice cloak, and that hat.
Oh yeah. Did you ever see the Gilligan's Island episode where he has the nightmare that he's turning into Mr. Hyde, and he's like in court on a witness stand?
No, I don't remember that one.
Oh, that's a great one. And
I remember the one where he thought he was Dracula.
yes, we don't have an alcove, you schnook. All right. So then John Barrymore and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Oh, and they reused that down there. That's pretty clever of them. Notice, oh, I like this part. Notice to our patrons, owing to the enormous price we're compelled to pay in order to secure Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, we are compelled to slightly raise our admission prices for this attraction.
They made us do it. We were
Yeah,
we were forced to raise our price.
we didn't wanna, but and then of course the prices stay that height. All right. Wait, here we go. To taste all pleasures, to sink into all depths of sin and shame, and leave his soul untouched. And so Dr. Jekyll becomes the vicious Mr. Hyde, a fiend incarnate, a monster in soul and body. John Barrymore is the greatest living actor, and this is the finest performance of his career.
Yeah, that other ad said it was the best piece of character acting on film or something like that ever filmed.
That's hilarious.
Which, there hadn't been probably that many performances since this was 1920.
Right, right.
Oh, that's like, 10 years.
So I don't obviously don't want to read the whole newspaper, but I just want to kind of look at some of the cool stuff on here. We've got the greatest
Wow.
drama of dual identity ever written starts at Victor Theater today.
Look at this. This is like major promotion. Wonder how much they paid for this.
I don't know. There's another one.
15
Uh,
cents.
there was a series of it was the book published like every chapter or something. It was like every week. It was interesting. Because I'm looking at it and I'm going, oops, and I'm going, why? How is this talking about the movie? And then I'm like, oh no, it's not talking about the movie. Then we got Stevens. Oh yeah, Robert Louis Stevenson's stepson. He went and saw it at the movies. There's a whole article about that. I thought that was cool. Dr. Jekyll, a lover, a gentleman. Mr. Hyde, a rogue and a brute. Both of them one man. The greatest piece of character acting ever. Oh, that's the same one that you saw.
A row, is that like a rogue? Roue?
Oh, maybe he's supposed to be a rogue because I'm like, I read it as a rogue because that's how it's spelled.
Mr. Hyde, you cad.
Oh, I misspelled it. Oh dear. And then come on, there's more. There we go. Oh, and this one I just cut the rest of the articles out, but it was another like full page thing. And it was a whole article about how two personalities or even more may be included in what the world recognizes as one man, which is not too far from the truth, I would imagine. What is it? Can you read the cartoon at the bottom?
I was trying to. No, the
Oh,
text is way too small. There we go. Scroll down. Because the idea of smoking was repugnant to Mrs. Beauchamp, Sally smoked a cigarette and in her next appearance rejoiced at Miss Beauchamp's confusion over the bitter taste in her mouth.
that's hilarious. Okay. Next.
I
We got
don't
at
get
the
it.
Regent. Here you go. The screen scoop of the season. We present Robert Louis Stevenson's immortal masterpiece,
The
Dr. Jekyll.
screen scoop. What? This is tabloid in its presentation. Wow.
I think it's because maybe they snagged this movie over like the next door theater or something.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, there was practically a theater on every corner. Um, Darling added attraction, a comedy, doggone clever.
Ah,
After such a heavy movie like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which was pretty heavy. I mean, you got to
yeah.
figure that doggone clever is probably
It does not have a happy ending.
no, no. Oops. Oh, I changed. Okay, good. And oh, this is the same one, right? Okay.
Yeah, we saw this one.
I thought I clicked it by
Scoop.
accident. Uh,
Houdini.
all right. The Regent. Yes, yeah. There was a Houdini movie that played along with this, and double features in a bunch of them. Robert Louis Stevenson's world famous immortal masterpiece. And then there's a bunch of critics saying how great the movie is. You should shell out a couple of cents and go see it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here's the movie Houdini in Terror Island. I have no idea. I've never heard of this. With Lila Lee and a mammoth cast. And it's also
Lila Lee, our singing angel, Lila Lee. That's from Lamora.
oh really?
Have you seen Lamora?
I don't recall. I may have.
AKA Lady Dracula,
Oh yes, yeah.
the one with Cheryl Rainbow Smith in it. Like, her
Yes,
character's name in that is Lila Lee, singing
Lila.
angel.
Oh, that's right. So, and this was interesting too. I didn't recall this before. This must have been early Paramount because it was Paramount Artcraft. And I remember seeing that logo going, oh, that's weird. They must have dropped it after a few
Mm-hmm.
years by 1930.
Picturization. It's like
Um,
pasteurization.
yeah. we want our we want our movies that aren't picturized.
Has this novel been picturized?
Dr. Louis Pasteur discovered the recipe for picturizing
Picture.
novels. There's only one week of the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde picture, and that is this week. Yeah, that was another thing I saw. It was only played for 1 week. I think that must have been because they would literally send the reels of film around to the different theaters.
Yeah, some movies are pretty big, and they were only in town for like 3 days.
Yeah.
The Mummy was one that was like that. It's kind of hard to find early ads for that because it only ever played like it would come in on a Sunday and go out on a Tuesday.
That's weird.
Yeah, one place Dracula only played on Monday and Tuesday. I can't remember where it was. I was like, wow, you sure don't give people a chance.
Well, I mean, you got to figure there was what barely radio and no TV, so maybe that was something to do on a Monday or Tuesday night.
Yeah, I mean, there were less distractions, surely, but that seems kind of brutal. Most cities did keep a movie around for almost a week.
Yeah, yeah. So look at this over here. I got a kick out of this. There's only one Ethel Barrymore, and she thinks that her brother John Barrymore has added new laurels to the Barrymore name by his great acting in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There's only one Lionel Barrymore, and he is proud of his brother, John Barrymore, for the wonderful screen version of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
I'm
And those
sure they were
only,
all thrilled by it.
yeah. They're like, damn you. There's only one Adolf Zucker, and he presents John Barrymore.
And it
They're
all
like
comes
just
back
getting
to
silly
John
here.
Barrymore.
The what?
It's just even Zukor's credit goes right back to John Barrymore.
Oh, his head must have exploded after this. It was so big. He needed a wheelbarrow to get home.
Cecil B. DeMille. I'm ready for my close up.
Harrisburg, yes, is the first place in Pennsylvania where this picture has been shown. That's pretty cool. If you desire the first and only authentic version of Dr. Jekyll Mr. Hyde with the only great star, John Barrymore, in the leading roles, then you must go to the Victoria. That's got to be, we got to make some kind of a comedy sketch where John Barrymore's name just keeps getting inserted into stuff.
That's amazing. I mean, there's a lot of copy there.
Yeah.
How much effort they put into selling this. Do you think people even read all that shit?
I I don't know. I guess so.
I mean, rhetorical question, but it just seems kind of weird that they put so much text in it now.
Right.
Everything's so brief now. There has to be like, evil dies tonight.
Yeah, well,
Like
you got
there
it.
has to be like a 3-word tagline to sell a movie.
When you do newspaper search, you got to check out the 1920s. It's tiny, tiny print and it's jam packed. Like every sheet of paper,
Yeah.
both front and back, in on the newspapers are just jammed with text. That's all I really had, you know. So
Even
you
into
had,
the 30s, I started to notice that there were like every ad you've shown has been slightly different for this movie, and that was typical, like especially with Frankenstein. I
right.
have so many different ads for Universal's Frankenstein and they were all unique. Like it was like different artists created a whole bunch of them, and they just got shipped everywhere. Maybe it was all local people that did it.
Could be, yeah. Here's another one from the Regent. Another, like, a lot of text on this, a lot of copy here.
I love
You
the
have your,
floating Madame Leota head in this
oh
one.
yeah. You have your last chance today to see Rob Louis Stevenson's world famous immortal. Don't miss your last obviously the picture of Harrisburg is talking about. Oh, this is the same place. This is their Friday ad.
The Victoria.
The world's greatest handcuff king and self-liberator in the Paramount ad.
Handcuff King. What? That's kind of kinky. Handcuff King,
Hey,
Houdini.
back then, if you went to the movies every week, you'd be good for 10 weeks if you saw this, because this is enough thrills for 10 pictures. No, no, really a sensation. What does that mean? No, no, really a sensation.
Really a sensation. Or maybe they're just like now.
Oh, I didn't see it. Okay, it's like a scientific thing. Okay. I thought he had the phone, and the other picture, I thought he had, the small end in one hand and the candlestick in the other hand.
This is a very intense scientific procedure, Rigor, that's going on here. And it has strange apparatus that you and I can't understand. And the reason that he's doing this is also something we'll never understand because we're not Dr. Jekyll.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, this is the last one. This I took some screenshots and we could see his transformation there. I just thought that face was funny.
Yeah.
It was kind of Jim Carrey like. But then there's the hands you talked about, because they went from normal looking hands to weird looking hands. And look at his nails, look like the zombie nails.
Yeah, his nails are the limit. How could your nails change? This story's bullshit.
This is just bullshit.
Oh, I love that last image there with him and looking at the candle. That's
Isn't it? I love that one. I want to get a t-shirt with that on it. It looks like a painting almost.
this movie. I thought, just off the cuff, this is a little dry in the horror element, except for moments like that. Like maybe my first impression of this was wrong It was very talky. That's what I didn't like about it the first time I saw it. I
For a
said,
silent film, it was very talky.
you know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't a whole lot going on. There was a lot of like, exposition. And I don't know. I want to see the scary shit. I want to see Count Orlok's castle and,
Yeah.
doors swinging open on their own and people jumping out of boxes on hinges.
Yeah. Oh my God. So I mean, for me, this movie is obviously inspired so many things, like the Incredible Hulk, the Wolfman, even, And I think one thing about Jekyll and Hyde movies, or even the TV shows, is the big thing is the transformation scene, sort of like werewolf movies. Would you agree?
Of course, that's the kind of thing that we want to see as kids, even I remember thinking, no, I want to see how it happens. Like sometimes they would just do a fall behind a table, and when they stand up, you're in makeup.
Yeah.
I everybody wants to see that.
They did that on General Hospital recently. It pissed me off. The two guys were just starting to throw fists at a bar fight, and then it cut to commercial. And when it cut back, they were like, and I don't know if you probably don't know who he is. Stephen A. Smith. He's a sportscaster, but he every so often he comes in, he plays this like super cool character named Brick. And they're like, oh yeah, well, Brick was here and he broke it up. And I'm like, I wanted to see that. Been waiting to see this guy in action, and it happened in the commercial.
Yeah. See, we always miss the good shit.
Oh my God. So, I thought the spider was fucked up. What was up with that? Was
Yeah,
that
I forgot about the spider. Yeah, that is definitely a horror moment.
it just made me think of so obviously he had a nightmare and he woke up and he transformed. And again, there's an Incredible Hulk episode where that exact thing happens to him. He has a nightmare of from the first episode where his wife dies in the car crash, and then it's going on and on and on, and then boom, he opens up, his eyes are green, and he just changes right then and there. This was almost the same kind of thing, except it was just really weird.
It was an experimental time.
Yeah, yeah. Let me see if I had anything on the making of it. Oh yeah, I thought this was pretty good. Troy Howarth, right?
I don't know him personally, but I know
Right, but of him. He basically said that by making Jekyll into an easily manipulated pawn, the filmmakers make him less responsible for his own actions and fate and more sympathetic, which I thought was spot on. Really did. And then where's the guy? Someone else said something. Oh, though so another person critic said, though at first Hyde is misshapen and hideous, he's nothing like the unspeakable, vile-looking creature that he is at the end of the picture. This should be a gradual development of evil. Bald head and the overbite becomes more pronounced, that sort of thing, which we kind of talked about. So yeah, so Bill, final thoughts? Anything else you want to add to this?
Um, no, I think you summed it up pretty nicely, about how this is the root of werewolf films. Any movie where somebody turns into a monster, you can trace back to this story. So, but that said, this was not, I mean, those things were all legend already, like a werewolf, a transformation into a werewolf, or people becoming vampires. I mean, that had already been around for a long time in folklore. So
Right,
Stevenson himself was inspired by it. So who's to say where the idea really started?
right. So shame on me. I haven't been checking the comments by the
The
people.
YouTube. Sorry.
Yeah, we don't normally get comments on YouTube, so I kind of wasn't expecting it. But Tomcat, hopefully you're still out there. Um, he kind of felt like he was third wheeling because he chimed in a few times and we didn't respond to it. So I apologize for that. But he did say that
Yeah.
Dracula's fabulous, which I agree. Um,
Yeah, I dig Dracula, the Universal Dracula for
yeah.
different reasons.
Um, he said Nosferatu, in my opinion, was kind of like the introduction to Jaws. I disagree. Or maybe this is a separate answer. Um, it's kind of like the introduction. Well, yeah, I guess we kind of don't really see him fully until the last act of the film, right?
Wait, which character are we talking about now?
Nosferatu.
No,
I'm just,
you see him early
yeah,
on.
you see him, but you don't really see him in his horrific face until like maybe halfway through.
I
I
guess
think.
so, yeah, because he has like a get up on the first
Yeah,
time that Hutter gets there. Like he's all in this like did you see his crazy eyebrows sticking out and everything? And then there's that one great shot where he finally sees him without any of this shit on, and he's just like that thing. So
yeah.
I guess that's true.
And he just said he disagreed. I'm not exactly sure what he disagreed with, but he feels like the film adaptation is very much a product of its time. It absolutely is. I mean, we said that early on. It
Yeah.
was the dawn of filmmaking, you know. So, all right, we're going to take a break here. I need to take a 5 minute break, and
Okay.
next up, we're going to do The Golem from 1920 and Phantom of the Opera from 1925. So, and it's I'm just going to say this now because I think Bill, you and I kind of already said at the beginning, all four of these movies are great.
Sure.
Nosferatu is probably the best of them, but they all are awesome.
No,
So, all
we
right,
did not say a bad thing about any of these movies.
right. They didn't have time to go into stupidity land where it's a bunch of teenagers walking in, into a scary place.
We hadn't gotten there yet.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to share this and mute my camera, and we will be back in 5 minutes, folks. Okay, I'm back. And just waiting for Bill. Oh, and while I'm here, I'll check the comments.
Boom.
Boom, Shanka. Uh, no, that was it. Okay. So let me just look at the Facebook page real quick here. Why did this change?
Oh, I closed my phone. How silly of me.
You silly old goose. All right. We're going to talk about the Golem or the Golem, aka the Golem, how he came into the world from 1920. And the synopsis reads: in 16th century Prague, a rabbi creates the Golem, a giant creature made of clay. Using sorcery, he brings the creature to life in order to protect the Jews of Prague from persecution. First impressions, Bill. When did you first see this?
Again, it was probably only about maybe 5 or 6 years ago that I finally caught up with the Golem, although we've all seen, at least I saw, representations of, stills from this film of the creature and in horror monster movie books. So I don't know. It just, again, I don't remember silent films ever being broadcast on TV. You said they were on PBS.
Yeah.
Um, I had to wait till home video, and even then, I don't think I ever saw the Golem until maybe 5 or 6 years ago streaming.
Wow. I still have him in this book here. I don't know if you can see him. Am I
Oh
doing this?
yeah, there he
Ah,
is.
there he is. There he is, right up in the top middle there. Yeah, this again, same here. This is one of those characters though that that I always saw the pictures of. I knew the story. I had read all about it. I knew the director and the writers and all that. And the the thing is, this is the one silent movie that really captured my imagination. It wasn't terrifying or scary by any stretch, but I really loved like the iconic scene that always sticks out in my head is when the pillars are falling on the people and the golem just steps in and he grabs them and he's like,
Yeah,
he just saves the people. I just love that. He was like a superhero, in the horror movies.
yeah, it was pretty amazing. Just the way that the film is staged, the way the sets. Like I said earlier, I think the Golem is a little more elaborate in its sets than Nosferatu, just a little. There's
Yeah.
a lot more weirdness in the Golem everywhere, as opposed to Nosferatu, where it was sort of like confined the weirdness. But I just love everything about the visual representation of it.
Yes.
Actually, I think it's pretty, again, we tend to think of these movies as being primitive, but they're only primitive like in very technical terms. Like the things that they were able to accomplish were, just as amazing then as even our best movies are now.
And the whole sequence where the magician summons Astaroth to bring the golem to life. The effects in that scene were awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think though too, whenever they do a close up of the golem's face, to me he looks like Dave Bautista from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So I would love to see him if they ever did a remake. He would make an awesome golem. But yeah, I mean, across the board, this thing got ratings through the roof. Everybody loved it, not just the critics. 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, even.
Wow,
This,
100%.
yeah, that's rare.
Does that mean two critics gave it? No, of course not.
No kidding. Yeah.
100%.
Oh man, this sold out at the Berlin premiere on October 29th, 1920, and it played to full theaters for 2 months straight. That probably was unheard of back then. Like we said, they come for a week and they're gone.
Yeah, it had to be a really big deal for them to keep it around that long. I just
And,
I don't generally see that with movies, even from like the early 30s.
right. Now, this says the film first released in the United States to packed houses in New York City in 1921 at the Criterion Theater, which I think some of the ads I'm going to show are from that theater. It was the longest running movie in the same theater that year, having run for 16 consecutive weeks in the theater. Despite the hot summer, the film screened to full theaters on a daily basis, multiple times a day. Its release started a so-called Golem cult of Golem-related media and adaptations. Oh, that's cool. I did not know that. um like
Their
this one critic.
franchise.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't have any Golem action figures. Oh man. But it just he kind of does this one scene where he does that. I'm lying down and now I'm standing almost, it was a little. I think he was kind of leaning on a chair and got up from that. But
Well, yeah, it does take a few. You could see that filmmakers were paying attention to each other's works. With the things. And plus, this was the same, at least part of the crew that brought you Nosferatu. Henrik Galeen,
right, the writer.
the writer, and there was another connection too. I'm pretty sure. Wasn't this another? This was a Janus film. Uh,
Yes.
and uh, Nosferatu may have also been a Janus film. There could be that
Yes.
connection as well.
They I'm just calling up the images here, but yeah, I believe that was the German production company, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. All right, here we go. Share. I'm going to share this image here.
we got some visual incoming. Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
I'll zoom it in a little.
For heaven's sake, aren't you tired of old stuff?
Wouldn't you like to see something different for a change? Here's a picture that'll make you gasp with amazement, and it's as different from the average movie as pictures are different from the stage. And I love that he has this weakness. So folks, if you don't know, if that synopsis wasn't that great, he's made of clay, but he's come to life to protect the citizens. And the star that he has on his neck, if you remove that from him, it's like the Lost in Space, the robot's power pack on his side. You pull it and he's like, and he just shuts down. And there was a few cool plot points in here where the guy is trying to get it from him and he's like, no, you're not taking it from me.
Many years later, I'm sure you've seen the movie It with Roddy McDowall.
Yes, I was thinking of that one.
Yeah, there's the Golem is in that movie as well, and
Is
of course, that is his weakness. If you remove that, it's a scroll in It, and you have to
That's what I was going to ask you. Isn't it a scroll in his mouth?
yeah, you had to put it under his tongue for him to come to
Yeah.
life. But same idea. There's only one thing that can stop him, and it's that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. I forgot about that. I was going to ask you about that if that was how it was with the scroll. Cuz yeah, that's a great movie too. We insist that the Golem seems to us to be the most impressive and significant piece of screen work ever made since films began. So, yeah, I mean, you could see why this lived on in those horror movie books and people were like, "Wow, what was this?"
We believe it will entertain children.
Yeah. I the only well, all right, well, I'll get into that in a little bit. But all right, we got the Golem and after the show, William DeMille. I wonder, is that Cecil B's brother?
No relation, I'm sure.
Oh, okay. So that's just about a comedy or something. It's like a love story. Touch the heart with its love and conflict, action, drama that rushes through the tingling crises played by thousands of people. Oh man, advanced vaudeville.
You're really
Entire
touching my
change.
nerve center with these ads, Roger.
I'm
With
doing what?
you're touching my nerve center. You're activating if there was a scan in my brain, it would be lighting up right now. But look at that bleed through behind the ad on the right.
Yes.
stuff like that. You can see what was on the other page.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Or it could be like, bleed from the opposite page when it was folded. So many possibilities.
Yes. And I love when, especially when you get to like the 70s, where you've got these creative ways of cramming all the films in and still having all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of text to read, even in these small ads.
Yeah. I know. I'm trying to hold back. I'm trying not to read everything. Let the folks at home look at it. Um, so we'll go to the next one. I thought this was a cool one. But I have to zoom in because I can't see my stupid. Oh, there we go. The Golem, a great photo play. Caught in a photo play. That was the song from the Terminator. The Golem. Can you read that? I can't read it.
Well, the golem was a vitalized clay figure believed by the Jews of the 14th century to have delivered them from their persecutors. Here, the golem is shown as conceived by Paul Wegener in a German film.
And there was a lot, much like which one was it? One of the movies we just did. There were pages. I think guess it was the Jekyll and Hyde. There were pages about the Golem. Like there would be a whole history, 5 or 6 columns
A great
telling you.
photo play.
Yes.
Hey, I want to say hi to Philip Duke, who's watching via the Facebook version of our broadcast. Philip Duke is the host of Making Tarantino, the podcast.
Oh wow, awesome!
Thanks for watching, Phil.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for watching, man. We gotta do a crossover sometime. You gotta come on. You like Haxon? He says, "Cool. I like Haxon. I think I will like Golem." Oh, he hasn't seen it yet. So yeah. Oh yeah, you got to see this movie. This it was really good. One of the picture sensations of the day. The Golem comes direct from a conquest in Europe and New York. Oh, that's a great way of putting it.
A conquest. Arr. Yeah, I really like I mean, I know this is a silent film. The version that you linked me to, Rigor, has an amazing soundtrack to it.
Is that the? There was one that I tried watching that it was that the one that had all fleshy colors and the inverted every so often and was psychedelic?
Yes, there was like this really high it was like this sighing chorus. It was in the soundtrack. It was really weird.
But I
I
mean visually, were they adding colors in and stuff?
I don't remember that.
Oh, okay, good. All right. That's not the version that I started to watch. Which one did it is that the was that the archive.org one? Oops.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
it all came from archive.org.
okay. I watched it. I ended up watching it on YouTube. And it was like 4K. It was unbelievable.
It's said to be among the best.
That's what they say. So, oops, why do I keep doing that? This German production credited with having some of the finest bits of acting yet seen on the silver sheet.
On the silver sheet. It's not
It's
even
not
a
even a
screen yet.
screen. What are we in my backyard? I mean, come on. Silver sheet.
Wow, that I was today years old when I learned that turn of phrase, the silver sheet.
I know, huh? Surpasses all in realism. Is that saying that the movie's good, or is there a movie called All in Realism? It's making more money there.
That's the last word I would use to describe this movie. It's
You're kidding.
fantasmagorical. I mean, it's not.
Well,
Well,
maybe they mean surreal. It surpasses all realism.
I guess, yeah.
And then I believe coming up next is some screenshots I took. This is Dave Bautista as the Golem. No,
There we go. Yeah.
and this version I watched, the color would change every so often. I thought that was actually really cool. It was actually like the version of Nosferatu that I watched.
That's how it was originally shown.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there were tints to the film. And you could do that, I guess.
Oh, okay.
You
I
could
always thought that
film
was
in
like,
color I mean, I'm not sure when color techniques were developed, but Phantom of the Opera has a color sequence in it.
yes, I have some notes on that. And yeah, I was very shocked that Technicolor was Technicolor itself was developed before Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind came out. There was like a couple of others that they
Mhm.
had like two color Technicolor that
Mystery of the
came.
Wax Museum,
Yep, that one
Dr.
and
X.
Dr. X. Yeah. Oh, maybe that's what it is. I'm thinking of because we talked about that. All right, I'm gonna stop share here.
Oh,
Stop
hi.
share there. But yeah, so the Golem, he was just where is it? I just love the concept of the character. The one thing I don't like, and I don't want to give too much away because I know people want to see it, but there's a point where um things go negative, let's say, for the Golem. And that's happened in other movies, and I don't like that. I wish they
Goes
would have
dark.
they kind of wrecked the rock the status quo. And that was just a slight issue I had with the film. But I think, I have that same issue with RoboCop. So um I think
You
it's
go
okay.
deep, Igor.
I just don't want to say it. But I love when he's fighting the guy, or the guy's fighting him, and he keeps trying to stab him with his knife, and then they do a close up later on, and his knife is like, whoop, it's like,
Yeah, it's a bad idea to stab a statue.
yeah.
Just saying. You're gonna wreck your blade.
Oh my god! All right, Bill. Final thoughts on the Golem from 1920.
Love it, see it. You need it in your life.
Yeah.
Hold them. There's one thing that I always think of is the connection between visual connection between this and Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which we're not covering on the show tonight, but it's got that same like strange perspective images, the very weird angles and the sets that they build for it. uh, it's uh, it's got a lot in common with that film.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And we're definitely going to do a part two of this down the road where we cover that and two or three other movies.
Oh,
We
let's.
definitely got to talk about Haxon and oh yeah, Frank Palvino's on. He said he likes oh, not Frank, Philip Duke. I'm sorry, I
That's Philip Duke.
let's see. Yep. You like Dr. X for sure. Nice. Nice. Yeah, Dr. X was good. So, all right, let's move on. Our last film tonight is I didn't really give my thing. I love this movie. I like I said, this is the one that really touched me as a kid. I just love the heroic aspect of it, the Herculean aspect of it. I would say that this has inspired a lot of films too, like even RoboCop. Just anything where there was one newspaper ad. It was actually an article from the 1920s, and they basically referred to him as a robot. And they said he was a mechanical man. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't go that far.
The
He's clay.
mechanical man.
He's clay. But I like how it's that Pinocchio story where he gets to the point where he's like, no, no, I don't, no disassemble. I don't want to be deactivated. I want to continue to exist. And I love stories like that. So, all right, highly recommend. Check that out. The Golem. There's a great version on archive.org, as we said, and it's also on YouTube. So, next up is The Phantom of the Opera from 1925. Like, I have to give a synopsis. This movie is officially 100 years old this year. So,
Oh,
congratulations,
wow, yeah.
Phantom of the Opera. It wasn't until I sat down and I typed in the year and to do the notes, and I went, oh, yeah. Lon Chaney, of course, stars in the title role of the deformed phantom who haunts the Paris Opera House, causing murder and mayhem in an attempt to make the woman he loves a star. Um, I guess that's a good synopsis. It's what IMDb says. I mean, I think most people nowadays are probably more familiar with the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical version of the story. So Bill, when did you first see this?
On video, I guess in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I
I,
think it's the same for all these movies for us.
out of the four movies that we talked about tonight, I think I like this one the least, even though, they're all great films and legendary, iconic. every superlative you can summon. But out of these four movies in particular, Phantom is my least favorite, just because it's so boring. It's really long, and it needs a good edit, in my opinion. And it there's a lot before you get to the stuff that you think of as, oh, that's the Phantom of the Opera. There's a lot of foreplay in this film, and then eventually you get to the part where he drags her down into his catacombs and the unmasking scene, which is of course what everybody talks about when they talk about Phantom of the Opera. And I think for those reasons it's my least favorite out of the four. But I was never really all that moved by the story of Phantom of the Opera, to be honest. Like it seems kind of like, uncomfortable.
Yeah,
It's
it's kind of rapey.
Yeah, it's got this uncomfortable vibe to it. It's like, oh well, he's gonna force her to be his lover slash protege slash whatever. And even though she's engaged to somebody else, like he doesn't care about whether what she wants. He's just gonna steal her and take her down into this weird place where he lives. So I don't know. There's something really creepy about that. And the movie doesn't try and make him as quite as heroic and inspiring as the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, where I guess we're supposed to sympathize, identify with him,
Right, right.
which is really uncomfortable.
It's just weird. I've seen that one too. I just don't remember it, but it's like I guess I didn't really. This is the one I didn't actually see of all the four. I was familiar with the images, but for whatever reason, I never saw this one until this viewing. And it was always in the horror books, of course, like you said, the iconic face, which is funny because there's actually two faces. He wears a skull mask at the dance at one
Well,
point,
yeah, yeah.
and then you see his real face. But when I was thinking of it, I was thinking of the skull mask. And so when they did the reveal and pulled off and you saw his real face, I was like, oh, fuck, I forgot about that.
It also looks like a skull. His real
Yeah.
face. It's like this exaggerated presentation of a human skull. And again, like, Chaney did that to his face for real. I'm sure some of it is well, it's all illusion, but I mean, like, he achieved it through very painful methods, and
Yeah.
really just had to have. He stuck wires into like into his eye sockets to make his eyes bulge out, just like
He
really
like taped
loving
his
real.
nose up
Yeah,
with like really strong tape.
yeah. I think there was something up one of his nostrils too, like, piece of wire or something up there.
I did a Voldemort costume one year and I taped my nose down. It was like this. I'm like, how the hell did they do that? And then I saw the making of, and they just green screened it out.
They did it the easy way,
Yeah,
Rigor.
I'll just walk around with a green screen and a projector. So obviously, as we mentioned, this stars Lon Chaney, the man of a thousand faces, and father to Creighton Chaney, aka Lon Chaney Jr., otherwise known as the Wolfman. Um, it's got a couple of other directors listed here too. Ernst Lamal and I'm sorry, it says it's got Rupert Julian is listed as the director, and then Chaney and Ernst Lamal and Edward Sedgwick are also listed as directors. Do you know anything about that, Bill? I didn't really get a chance to.
No, I mean, I think that's probably the old adage that, some films are like that, like that different people pick up the director role, and but one person gets the credit for it. And maybe this is like a retroactive thing, or where they credited all those people. I don't think it reads that way on the film credits on
Oh,
the
that's true.
actual movie. So
Let me see. Yeah, they're all uncredited. It's just Rupert Julian. And I can imagine. I think what it is if I think a certain percentage of their input is used. Like if Cheney says no, the Phantom should do this. No, the Phantom should move this way. And after a while, it builds up enough. I think to go, okay, you get a director credit.
I've heard of that though. I mean, well, the biggest story that everybody talks about is, did Toby Hooper really direct Poltergeist? Or was that
Oh
really
yes.
Steven Spielberg that directed it? Which, I have my opinions about that. But this was probably more a case of maybe the director wasn't always on the set for some of the scenes that were shot, some of the pickup shots, and that could have been Chaney directing one of the scenes. Like if it just involved his character, it could have
Right.
just been him making the decisions, but
That's
who
true.
knows? I'm
And
not a film historian in that regard, so I
right.
can't really speak to that.
It was written by Gaston Leroux, which was based on his 1910 novel. So this movie was only 15 years after the book came out, and
Mhm.
he was still alive. So that was kind of unique for these horror titles, right? Because what's his name?
Yeah,
What's the Lugosi? Bram Stoker wasn't no
Bram
longer.
Stoker was dead.
Mary Shelley was long dead.
Bela
So
Lugosi was dead.
Lugosi. Wait, what?
I said Bela Lugosi's dead too.
Well, he's dead now, but I mean back then. Talking about the authors, man, the authors. All right, let me get some where do we go? It's newspaper ads. Phantom of the
Philip Duke said
Opera.
we should do The Unholy with Lon Chaney. Have you seen that one?
I don't think so.
It's really it's highly recommended. It's Joan Crawford is in it. She's like opposite Lon Chaney, and it's set in a circus, and Chaney is this performer who has no arms, and he does everything with his feet, and he throws knives with his feet, and Joan is his partner where he throws knives at her, like on a wheel or something. And things progress from there.
Now that you mention it, sounds familiar. I've probably seen pictures of it in my books. All right, I'm going to share this. That sounds awesome, actually. I mean, I don't know the no arms thing though. I have a hard time watching movies like that. Like I will never watch Freaks again. It's an amazing film. It's a great movie, but I will never watch that again.
Freaks. Yeah. I love Freaks. I'd watch Freaks anytime.
Oh my god. Yeah, those kind of movies. I can't even watch those commercials with the starving children because I'm just like I just feel so awkward. All
Well,
right,
you feel like you have to help them somehow and you can't.
right. All right, so I'm sharing this thing and just looking at the
Wow. This is like a lyrics to a song,
yeah.
a Bowie song.
I am the devil. I am a saint.
A man, a ghost, a lover.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. And Regis Philbin's grandma, Mary Philbin's in this. So that's good. Everything you've hoped to find in a picture.
Yeah, there's so
Oh,
many things I
goody.
hope that I'm gonna find in this picture, and Phantom of the Opera has it all.
Oh, goody. My life is complete now. All right, here's still from the movie with our leads.
It looks like a Frankie Goes to Hollywood video.
It does, doesn't it? Relax, man.
Relax.
Now showing at the Strand is a mystery spectacle with Paris for the setting. Here are Mary Philbin as the prima donna, Norman Carey as the young officer who loves her, and Arthur Edmund Carews as a man of mystery in a scene from the film. Yeah, some of that this love triangle here got a little confusing. I always have to say.
See, this is the part that didn't interest me at all.
Yeah,
I was
and
like,
you
I
would
just
think because I love soap operas, I would be into this stuff, but I just couldn't get it.
want. It wasn't even engaging with you, Rigor.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of why I don't watch Young and the Restless. I can't do it. So I fall asleep every time.
Yeah, it's like it's too slow. The
Yeah.
pacing is way too slow.
All right. 1 week only, starting tomorrow. Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney, Regis, Mary Philbin, Norman Carey. 5,000 screen actors and 4,000 directors and 3,000 writers.
It took so many people to make this movie. Can you imagine, like, at least 4,950 people being considered supporting actors,
Right.
a supporting cast?
That's funny. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of people. I don't think there was 4,000 people in the movie though. And there was a
There's
lot.
over 5,000 screen actors.
Yeah, 5,000. I don't know. I think that's a little hyperbole there, wouldn't you say?
I think so too, yeah.
All right, and this one we don't have to read the whole thing, but I just thought it was pretty interesting. It's another full page. It's another movie that had all kinds of full page talk about it. I can't see what's at the very top because there we go. No picture ever made is like the Phantom of the Opera. Straight from the Shoulder Talk by Carl Lamal. Is that his podcast? President of Universal Pictures Corporation.
Is that how you pronounce that? Like Lamal?
That's how I've always pronounced it. Well, how would you
I thought
pronounce it?
it was Lamley
Oh, I don't know. I always thought it was Lamal
or Lemley.
because I think I think that name is used in like King Kong or a movie around from that time, and that's where I picked up saying it. I could be wrong. Okay, so the unknown. What does this say here? The square rectangle.
Oh, Carl Lamley makes a magnificent contribution in Greater Movie Season by offering Phantom of the Opera. Greater Movie Season. Define that if you can.
And when is lesser movie season?
Yeah. That's like January and February.
Maybe that's what they mean when the winter's not so busy, but the summer is when, even though they didn't really have summer blockbusters back then just yet. This was a cool one. I thought they did a great job of not giving away the Phantom at all. Like none of the promotional material do you see his face.
Yeah, this one's beautiful. Oh, look at those blocks, those 3D blocks in it.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
And just this, remember Michael brought in the Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein book? It's the same kind of artwork. The pen and ink. I love that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
the lettering is amazing. I want that font.
Yes, yeah. That's what I thought it was at first. When I clicked on it, I was like, wait a minute, what? No, oh, all right. It can't be a font, like a current font. It's like, but it is the gayest, most lavish of Parisian revels to put to rout, whatever that means.
The gayest. There is no movie gayer than Phantom of the Opera.
Right. Oh my God. Larry Gene Fisher, the Texas organist, featuring the Phantom Singer. That's funny. So yeah, again, a newspaper page full of text. Look at all the descriptive words they use here. Ghostly, fantastic, extraordinary, different, unique. I mean, did they just throw everything at the board to see which one sticks?
Yeah, why stop when at a few when you can write 20 of them?
I could see it now. They're like, Johnny, this rectangle here is empty. We got to put something there. We got to fill it with something. What can we fill it with? I don't know, boss. Maybe how about some adjectives? Adjectives. I love adjectives. All right.
The
And then
Phantom Singer, Larry Gene Fisher,
right.
Texas
It's,
organist.
it's just a floating cowboy hat and a guitar and it's playing. That would be cool, actually. All right. Here's that
I'd
font
go
again.
see it.
Starting today, continuing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
I
That's a
like
cool.
this one too. These are all beautiful. Wow, you found
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. I lucked out. And this is also from 25. Because it was funny. I was getting confused. I'm like searching and I was like, oh, yeah, this is not a foreign film. It'll actually get released the same year, the year that they said it did.
Today, 2-day.
Q, what was that on here?
Uh-huh. See, for the headline, starting today.
Oh, yeah. 2-day. That's funny. I've seen weird things like that down through the decades. Here we go. Paris Opera Ballet Ensemble, an interlude in the performance of Faust, one of the big scenes of Phantom of the Opera, now in its second and final week at the Regent Theater. And that's the thing, too. All right. So they kept using Faust, and I kept getting the impression that they were like, yes, this story is like Faust. And I didn't really get that out of it. He doesn't really make a deal with the devil. It's nothing like Faust.
No, not really.
He's not handsome, you know?
Phantom of the Paradise, however,
Yes.
does have something to do with Faust.
That's a great movie. We got to do that sometime. I'd love to watch that again. Um, that used to. I never actually saw Phantom of the Paradise in the theater, but I remember seeing the commercial, and the commercial scared the shit out of me. And then my parents took me to horror movies, and I'm like, I don't want to see that one.
Phantom of the Paradise scared you?
Yeah, it looked terrifying. But he's got the G-force helmet on, and he's the sharp teeth, and he puts the
Yeah,
plunger in the guy's face in the shower, and then he's like talking in a weird voice that like creeped me out as a kid.
it could happen.
Oh man, so this picture is a picture without parallel. So on parallel Earths, they don't have a Phantom of the Opera story. Owing to the extreme popularity of this stupendous screen spectacle, the Regent management has made arrangements to present it to the Ottawa public for one more week starting today. Oh gosh. It's doing so well. The government said we got to play it again. We don't know.
I'm glad we're in a universe that has Phantom of the Opera because, even though it's my least favorite out of the four tonight, it's still pretty amazing. Those scenes in the underground part of the opera house really just get to me. And the idea that there could be somebody that you could escape society like that somehow. Like imagine this is reality and you are the Phantom and like your whole life has been this theater and you're still living in the theater except underneath of it like through down all these cracks and there's rats everywhere and yet this is your life, this is where you return every night. It's
Right.
really it's kind of like living in the Monroeville Mall in Dawn of the Dead.
That's true. I hadn't thought of that. That's a good one. They did one what a version and they've done quite a few versions over the years. So the one in the 80s with Robert Englund. I remember that one not being so good.
Oh yeah, and Dario Argento's Phantom of the Opera, have you seen that one
I think I did, yeah.
with Julian Sands?
Yes. Yep. And again, it's like, how do you get behind a character who's trying to force the woman to love him? You know?
Yeah.
I think they do it a little differently. Don't what's the one for some reason his name always escapes me. The guy that played the Invisible Man.
Claude
Claude
Rains.
Rains. Yes. I knew as soon as it came out of my mouth. Claude Rains' version in 1931, I think the story was a little different. Like he loved her or something, but she liked him too, right? But then he gets disfigured.
Yeah, there were little variations to the story in each one, and I think that was the difference in that one. There
Yeah,
was sort of history between them.
right, right. That makes a little bit more sense because in the book he's born like that, and I think that's the same way here. So you won't see it elsewhere in Los Angeles till next year. It's fifth big week. Boy, that must have been a cutthroat business back then, being a movie theater owner, huh?
I guess, yeah. You had to resort to cheap hucksterism, such as this.
And how did you like? How do you fight the other guys to get the thing? You put sugar in his gas tank so that he can't get to the meeting to outbid you on the film.
It was healthy competition.
Yeah.
A cast of 5,000 again. They're still talking that number.
Oh yeah.
Uh, you don't even know where to look on the screen in Phantom of the Opera because there are so many people.
Oh my God, here we go. Wild, weird, and wonderful. Thrilling action, breathtaking suspense, mystery, beautiful, beyond comparison, different. Again, they just jam in as many adjectives as they can. It's at the usual Rialto prices, so
They
that's good.
really wanted your 15 cents.
Yeah. startling atmospheric prologue, Misha violin and his orchestra. Oh, and that's the other thing, folks. I totally forgot to mention at the top of the show. If you're still hanging with us, these movies, and probably many of you watching already know this, but I'm going to say it anyways for those who don't, because that's what we do here. The movie would play, and under the movie, not blocking the film, but below it would be an orchestra playing music along with it. So it wasn't like you just sat in complete silence and there was just the
Yeah.
sound of the projector going. There was music playing to go along with it. Which that in and of itself is kind of an art form, being able to time an orchestra to a film every single time the movie plays.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of those archive.org prints do not have any musical accompaniment.
Yeah.
And I guess that's sort of, you're getting the raw experience there. But even any version I've ever had of a silent film has always had some kind of musical accompaniment. And I'm not sure how that, like, is there a standard audio accompaniment for Nosferatu, let's just say?
Right.
When we got those VHS tapes in the 80s, was that somehow linked? Because there were prints of the movie by that point that could have had a sound strip on them. So I don't know.
I
I
think
really,
some of them are remastered and some of them are just redone because the audio track, for
yeah.
whatever reason, it never came. All right, so we get another one here, giant one. Again, that image just kind of not a good thing. I mean, not a good transfer is what I meant to say. Cinema thrill with one L of the century.
It's still beautiful though. I love the high contrast ones too, like this.
Yes, yeah, I do too. Oops. All right, and then we've got all right. So we're in screenshot territory. I loved this shot because it scared the shit out of me.
He's like a version of Bert from Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Hey, Ernie, you took my mask.
Give me my CPAP back, Ernie.
Look, she can somehow see him, even though
I think that's a mirror, isn't it?
no, he's reading his music there.
Oh yeah. Huh. That's a good point.
He doesn't need that music though. There might be a mirror there so he can look at his mask.
Yeah.
That music comes from him. Okay, he doesn't need to read it on paper.
So Philip Duke said really great font. That was the font we were talking about for
Yeah,
the movie. These ads are great. I never find ads this nice.
I don't. It's really, I mean, a couple, but you had a whole gallery of nice looking images there. Look at this.
Is that a
This
great
is
shot?
stunning.
I grabbed actually because there's a little bit of a sequence before, like between the reveal and then this shot here, but they were out of focus. It pissed me off. So this was the first time it was in focus, but I love that. I love the composition of the shot.
Look back there. Is that his bedroom?
It
Like
may
there's
very
a
well
curtain
be.
back there. Yeah, that's his that's where he was taking her next.
Oh yeah.
He's like, look, there's a violin there. He's a multi-instrument. He's just an amazing creator of music. This looks like a scene from a wax museum, actually.
Oh yeah. Let me go back to it real quick. It does, doesn't it? It's like, which by the way, we saw in New Orleans. We didn't actually go in, but we saw Madame Tussauds, which I've seen before in London. And you're right, it's exactly the kind of scene they would have there. All right, and then there's the red. This was what I was thinking of when I was
Yeah.
thinking of Phantom of the Opera. And so when they showed that other face, I jumped. I was like, oh fuck. And I love this. This is a whole I have in my notes what they did here for the color. This was actually how it was released, but I think like we said in Dr. X, it was only certain places that got the color prints.
Yeah, not everybody got to see this sequence in Technicolor.
Yeah.
And the prominent colors here are red and green because those were the two colors you got on that.
Right.
So
There's a whole thing about William Shatner's shirt in the first season of Star Trek. It's green, but it's actually yellow in real life. But it was because they couldn't make yellow with the technology they had that his shirt looks green.
Hmm.
Um, and there we go. This was another great one. I love that his acting, he just comes right through the makeup. Even when he's got that sort of creepy half mask on, which if you're gonna woo a chick, wouldn't you want like a cooler one?
Yeah, you could have at least shopped around a little,
Right. He got the creepiest one. It just kept making me think of that one with Chuck Norris. Not Chuck Norris, Chuck Connors. We had the wax
Tourist
figure.
trap.
Tourist trap. Yeah.
I love it. Tourist trap is a fave.
Yes. Yeah. I think we did talk about that already. All right. So I do have a bunch of notes here on this movie that I'd like to get into, and then we'll wrap things up. So, oh yeah, so Karl Lamal was vacationing in Europe in Paris, and he met Gaston Leroux. Gaston gave him a copy of his book, and he read it, and he said, "We got to make this into a movie," and so it was sold. Um, and there were a lot of behind the scenes troubles on this production. Chaney and the director didn't get along well. The ending, they kept changing the ending. The studio thought the novel's ending was too downbeat, which I don't recall what the novel's ending is. But they said people fainted when the reveal of Chaney with the makeup on as the Phantom, that's his face. Um, I guess people like fainted and passed out, and it's funny because now you're hearing that nowadays with is the Frightener, not the Frightener, Frightmare. Help me out here, folks. I'm all by myself here, so I'm going to read a comment. I'm going to switch over to a comment. Um, uh, Frank Polvino said he's breaking the fourth wall. Phil Duke said Pandora's box that I just bought has like 3 different musical accompaniments. Oh, interesting. And he also said, when I saw Metropolis actually at the Orpheum here in Phoenix, they had musicians behind the drop screen, and it was really cool. That's awesome. I wonder if anyone has seen the version of Metropolis that they did in the 80s, where it was like Queen and David Bowie and all these awesome musicians made the soundtrack for it, which that's one we'll have to revisit as well. Because I remember that being specifically being a good version of Metropolis, which was always good. Um, but yeah, so people passing out. What is it? It's not the Frightener. It's the one with Art the Clown. And hey Siri, what movie is Art the Clown in?
Okay, I found this on the web for what movie is born in. Check it out.
No, that's not it. What movie is Art the Clown in?
Art the Clown is the main antagonist in the Terrifier film series and a secondary antagonist in All Hallows Eve.
That's right.
This is from
I couldn't get back.
Terrifier, not the Frightener.
Terrified.
I had Siri co-hosting with me.
Oh, Siri, thanks for sitting in for me.
Siri's really nice to me, but she's really rude to my wife.
Is she? There's some tension there.
My wife's like, "Hey Siri," nothing. She just doesn't answer.
Oh, that makes life interesting.
Oh, thank you, Siri.
No problem.
See how polite she is. So I was just reading. Well, I was actually talking, and I couldn't remember the name Terrifier. So I'm like, okay, let's do some comments here from the viewers, and we got a bunch. Philip Duke said he got the Pandora's Box version that has 3 musical accompaniments. And when he mentioned seeing Metropolis and they had musicians behind the screen doing the music, and I asked the fans if they had if Philip said Giorgio Moroder. I'm wondering what Giorgio Moroder did. Oh, maybe it was. Well, I was asking
Soundtrack to Metropolis.
Metropolis. That's what I was saying. Because then they had bands like Queen and David Bowie and a bunch of bands do songs for it too.
Mm-hmm. Adamant.
Yeah. So I was wondering how many of the viewers have seen that version. We're gonna have to touch that one because that's a really good one. It's not really horror per se, but it's
a fantastic film. It's a strange fantasy. It's unnerving. It's not really a horror film, but it's definitely unnerving.
Right, right. It's got that dystopic kind of feel to it. So I was just saying, just as you took a break, the audiences were passing out when the reveal scene happened, and that just was reminding me of how they've been saying that recently with the Terrifier movies, like people vomiting in the theater.
Those stories were probably planted by the studio,
Right,
just like they did with The Exorcist. They would hire people to go to screenings of The Exorcist and freak out and like pass out. And they're like, "Oh, did you see what happened?" Like, yeah, people can't handle this movie.
that's awesome.
And then, someone would come in and take them away.
Who was the filmmaker that hired protesters to protest this movie?
Um,
Was it John
but
Waters?
so many people have done it.
No, that's funny.
There's at least one, I think it was Snuff, is what you're thinking of, the film Snuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, it wasn't Jerry Gross. I can't think of who that was, but they hired people to stage a demonstration about the movie Snuff and get like some controversy started. Of course, nobody went to see it, unfortunately.
Right.
Have you seen that?
Yes, long time ago.
It's really it's totally strange and not
Yeah.
at all what you would think. It's one of those movies that somebody bought and then shot an ending for or an intro
Right.
and tried to make it seem like it was something that it wasn't.
Yeah. It wasn't as bad as House by the End of the Street that you made
That's
me
House
watch
on Dead End Street.
House on Dead End Street that you made me watch 3 times. Yeah.
I did not make you watch it even once. But yeah, I can't watch it again. I think I have one more screening of it in me, but no more than that. It's just too disturbing.
Yeah. I think I need a decade to cleanse myself. Roger Ebert awarded this movie, Phantom of the Opera, 4 out of 4 stars, writing it creates beneath the opera one of the most grotesque places in the cinema, and Chaney's performance and Chaney's performance transforms an absurd character into a haunting one. Which I have to say, I agree with that. I loved his makeup. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just amazing. Here we go. Part of the 1925 Phantom of the Opera is in color because certain scenes, particularly the Bal Mask scene, were filmed using early Technicolor technology, which allowed for limited colorization in a time when most films were black and white. This color footage is what survives today, making those scenes stand out in color compared to the rest of the film. And as we mentioned, Dr. X, and I think some of you guys, oh, good. Frank Polvino also thanks Siri as well. I do that too, and her answer changes every time. But yeah, so the color is like Dr. X. So the technology for color didn't change too much between here and Dr. X, which was what, 36, did we say?
32.
32, right.
Dr.
Okay.
X was 32, and
Yeah.
Mystery of the Wax Museum was 33.
So yeah, so not too bad. But then it was like by 39, you were doing Wizard of Oz. So I guess it was a short amount of time.
Hey, I stepped off camera to go get this.
Oh,
This is my portrait of the Phantom of the Opera that I painted in high school.
oh wow, that's awesome, dude.
You love it?
I love it.
Anyway,
That's amazing.
it was an art class, an art project. It's one of the best things I ever did. I don't even think I have any of my paintings from art class, but I kept that one because it was my favorite. The
Yeah,
only good thing I ever did.
that looks like a Famous Monsters cover. That you could sell that to them.
I think I did use that as a guideline, I'm sure.
Yeah, man, that's great. That's awesome. I know I'm trying to get my drawing table back in my office here. Um, I love how though, like this movie kept taking turns that I wasn't expecting. Like he takes the giant bamboo reed and he goes underwater, and it's like a Gilligan thing.
When you come out of the water, you'd be all filthy from being in that. Wasn't it a sewer under there?
Sewer, yeah.
And like you're like walking in the water, and then you come out of the water, and then you go into your bedroom. I mean, how do you live down there? And there's
Right.
no running water, I presume, where you could go wash that off.
Hey, so he probably smells like sewage.
Oh, I have questions.
Our viewers need answers. Oh my god. Um okay, so then yeah, I thought that was genius. I just thought the whole end of the movie was exciting, all the way up to where he jackknifes the carriage and including that, it's just like,
Yeah.
oh shit.
Yeah, the Phantom causes chaos wherever he goes.
Right, right. And
He's
he's
just one
he's
of
up
those
there.
perennial misfits. I guess that's what the story of the Phantom is like the person that can't fit in and wants to force the world to be like him instead.
Right.
Heal her and take her down into his sewer palace and where he can just play the organ. Somehow he got an organ down there.
Yeah.
And when he played that thing, like, where did people think that music was coming from?
Right.
That never drew anyone to him over however many years he'd been living there.
Well, wasn't he like he was 5 cellars down or something, wasn't he? Or am I thinking of a different movie?
I don't know.
I think there was at one point someone says, "Yeah, he's 5 cellars down or something." I could be wrong. I don't know. Talking out of my ass, I guess.
Like Freddy's lair, Nightmare on Elm Street. Remember, she has that dream where she goes down into her basement and then down like a ladder and down
Yeah.
stairway after stairway.
Oh my god. But yeah, this is another movie though. I think it's inspired quite a few stories, sort of like Beauty and the Beast with Ron Perlman and Linda Hamilton. It was kind of living in the sewer and that kind of thing, except they weren't killing people, they were saving people. That's the thing too, is I think the story changed. If I'm right about the I can never remember his name until you're about to say it. Invisible Claude Rains. That's I should just say Invisible. The Claude Rains version, I think that one, like you said, they had a much more of a connection. It wasn't quite so rapey. Like this one, you mentioned at the top of the show too, how a lot of things happened in these movies that you were shocked because this was pre-code, right? Well, the code wasn't until what, 39 or something?
I think it was earlier than 39, but
Like
I don't
35.
know. I could be
Yeah.
wrong. I don't like to think about that. The
But like
stifling
Johnny
creativity.
Weissmuller at Tarzan's, you see a lot more of Jane than you expect.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah. Until someone, I don't know, somebody went, I'm offended by that. That's when it all started. But anyways,
Offended by the truth that naked women are beautiful.
one thing I love about the end of this, should I give away the end of this movie or not?
Well, it was made in 1925, so I think you're okay.
And it's a story that's been done to death. But basically, at the end, he falls into the water and disappears. And I was like, great, sequel time,
Yeah.
revenge of the
Come back. They
Venom of
could.
the Opera. But
Years
they never.
later, they still hear an organ playing down there. I'm like,
But I love how, like, when you look at famous monsters, or you think back to famous monsters, and they still do, it's the Universal monsters always included, the 1930s and 40s and 50s guys, but you also had the Phantom too. He was part of that group. He was
Yeah.
sort of like, I don't know what the good analogy is, but he's this ancillary character but he's still part of the team.
Well, he lost his place over the years. Eventually, you didn't see him referenced, even though there were more contemporary versions of Phantom of the Opera, like the Claude Rains version. And,
There's a Hammer version too, I think.
yeah, that's the one I was trying to. Herbert Lom.
Yes, Herbert Lom
is the Phantom in that one.
Right. Clouseau. We did all the Phantom pictures, right? So, all right, Bill. So, why don't you give us your final thoughts on the Phantom of the Opera from 1925?
Love it, need it. You have to see it if you haven't. What are you waiting for? It's 100 years old, but you've probably seen it. So, yeah, I really dig it. Even though it's a little boring in certain places. These movies can't, most of them anyway, many of them cannot compete with today's pacing. Like
Right.
even stuff that I grew up watching, I go back and watch it now, and I'm like, oh, come on. Can't can't this move any faster? TV shows, especially Wonder Woman. Did you ever
Yes.
watch an episode of
Of
Wonder
course.
Woman now? You're
Yeah.
like, God, how long is it going to take them for something to happen?
Oh my God. And I have to say, like things like certain shows held up for me. Like when I'm not working and I'm doing stuff around the basement here, you getting my office in order or whatever, I'll play an episode of Sanford and Son. I played the whole series, which I've already seen all the episodes like several times over.
Yeah.
But as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, shit, I sound and act a lot like Fred Sanford. He must have shaped my childhood. So, but it's just funny. But yet, if I watch an episode of The Greatest American Hero, I I have a hard time getting through it. It's not that good.
Yeah. That I never liked that show. That even when it was a huge hit, that it didn't take long for people to get tired of The Greatest American Hero.
Yeah, I loved it, but yeah, they should have just that's a whole topic for another show. Anyways, all right. Did you give your final thoughts already on this movie? I
Yeah,
think. Yep.
I'm
All right.
final thought it out.
I think it was phenomenal. I'm surprised I'd never seen the whole thing before this viewing. So it clearly illustrates, Lon Chaney Sr.'s acting ability. He was just unbelievable, and I don't know what he
Yes.
contributed to the directing, but you know that any contribution he made helped make this movie good. I kind of agree with your assessment, Bill, that it's not the best of the four. For me, the best of the four was I would say the Golem first, and then Nosferatu a close second. And then followed by I think this is kind of tied with the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I think they both have the same kind of pacing, um, same kind of feel, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's true. Although I thought Dr. Jekyll was a little more thrilling in certain parts anyway. It definitely had a little bit more of that horror atmosphere than Phantom does until, like I said, like the last 20 minutes of the movie. It's
Yeah.
long.
Yeah. And Frank just actually brought something up in the comments, which is something that I had in my notes too, is that this sort of influenced things like the Abominable Dr. Phibes.
Sure.
A
Yeah.
lot of influences from this movie. I recommend it though. I think it's good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just maybe not as good as Nosferatu or the Golem. We get a couple more comments. Yep, Frank said, did it inspire Phibes? I don't know. I'm sure it did. Although I had the guy that wrote it and his son on the show, and Stuart Goldstein and not Stuart Goldstein. I'm not going to say the names because I can't. I'm going to get them wrong now. I'm very tired right now. But they didn't mention it. I didn't think to ask that. So I'll have to ask them. But
They might be offended if you said that, like they weren't original to think up like you're suggesting they weren't original. They totally were. We're not saying that, guys.
right, Damon, don't you guys were very original. Just wonder if there was maybe a little inspiration. But anyways, Frank asks, did you ever see when they tried to redo The Greatest American Hero and they gave a suit to a girl? It was only one episode of The Greatest American Heroine. And yes, I do unfortunately remember that. And I think Ralph Hinckley's in it for like 5 minutes to pass the baton or something.
There's only one episode of it.
That's all I remember that watching was one episode. He says there was only one. I'm trying to remember. I guess it really didn't go to series. I don't recall there being a series.
Oh, maybe it was so it was like a 2-hour movie.
I think it was. I think it was a pilot and it just didn't take off.
Yeah. Take off. Get it.
But bump. All right, Phil. So why don't you tell the folks where they can find you online?
Etsy. Oh no, groovydoom.etsy.com is where you can purchase issues of Drive and Asylum. Hey, there's a new issue that's going to be coming out soon, Rigor, and you're in it.
Oh,
Remember that a long time ago when you gave
1980?
Yes.
Yes.
The new issue about to drop. I should have it ready to go in probably another week, and then we'll be on sale. For now, there's some back issues in the shop you can pick up to whet your appetite. And on Saturday nights, I often do live stream show called the Drive-In Asylum Double Feature with my co-host on that show, Sam Panico. So watch us there. We got one coming up next Saturday night. It's Coffee and Malibu High is our
Awesome.
two hit woman double feature next Saturday. So check it out. It's on the Groovy Doom Facebook page or YouTube channel.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You can find all of my podcasts and blogs at havenpodcasts.com. Before I sign out, Philip Duke responded, yes, there was only one Greatest American Heroine. So again, havenpodcasts.com. And then also you can find me at soaphub.com and soapcentral.com, where I write about all the soap news that's fit to print. Thanks for joining us, folks. Join us next month. I think, Bill, didn't we think we were going to maybe talk about Giallos? We were supposed to do that next. So
that's just one of the things we've been batting around for a while now. So
yeah,
I wasn't sure what we were going to do. I'm always game for whatever you come up with.
cool. All right, folks. Well, hang in there and I'll try and put out I apologize for putting out the invitation so late. I don't mean to put them out like 2 days, 3 days before the show. It's like I think about it. I put a reminder on my phone and it keeps reminding me. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to get to that. Oh yeah, I got to get to that. And then all of a sudden I look at the calendar and I look at my wife and I'm like, wait a minit, the show's on Sunday. Today's Wednesday.
Yeah,
So
life happens.
All right, folks. Thanks a lot.
Thanks to everyone for watching.
Why did my mouse froze? No. What's going on here?
I don't know what is going on.
There we go. My mouse froze for a second.